Hey guys, welcome back to Budget Build Hot Rods. On this episode, we're going to take my daily driver. We're going to add some cheap Amazon lift blocks to it. So if you're here looking for a step-by-step on an installation on these with a couple of really good tips involved, then stick around and watch this. Or if you're just bored at home, twiddling your thumbs, scrolling through YouTube, and you're just looking for something to watch, stick around. Maybe you'll learn something. Either way, hope you enjoy. Start by jacking this thing up, which I've already done, and we're going to yank the wheels off of it, and then we're going to assess the situation and figure out what it's going to take to get this done. But I think this is really going to make a big difference, and not to mention, I got a big old screw in the tire, so it's losing air anyway. Well, it's time to do something. I've got a set of brand new tires over there, right there. They've been sitting there for like 6 months. Anyway, all right. So we're gonna get this tires off and assess this, and I'll bring you right back. All right, we got the wheel off of it. Now we're looking at this. So basically, what we've got is we've got a spacer, and the spacer goes between between where the spring mounts to the spring hanger, or whatever you want to call that thing. So anyway, this goes in there, and that is your spacer in it, and it raises the truck up the thickness of this adapter. So we're going to have to break this ball joint loose. I'm going to break this loose so that way we can get this to kind of swing out of the way. I'm probably going to have to take this loose as well, just so that way we have some more movement, and then the bottom of the shock, so that way this is free enough that I can drop it down to be able to wedge that in there. So anyway, that's where we're at, and I will grab some tools and start breaking this thing apart. All right. All right, I've got this loose. I've got this ball joint loose, but you won't always remember that this is actually under spring tension. So you want to back your nut off, but you don't want to spin it all the way off. It's still got about 2 or 3 threads in there. So now whenever I break this loose, this is not going to shoot up and smack somebody in the face or anything. So you don't want to cause any body injury. So always make sure that whenever you take these loose, this spring is under a lot of tension. So you want to spin this down so it still has, you can break it loose, but it's not going to go flying off there. So you always want to keep that into consideration. All right, did you see that? See how that sprung? So that tells you how much spring tension is actually there. All right, I had to have the wife, my tool getter, turn the wheels so that way I can get this broke loose, just so that way we can get this to swing out of the way. So she had to turn the wheel all the way to one side, and then after we get this done, what we'll do is we'll take it jack. We're going to slide underneath this control arm. We're going to jack this up, and we'll take the tension off of this, so that way we can get that nut off. And then you can just slowly let the jack down, and that keeps it from just going spring and smacking somebody upside the back of the head. All right, this is something that I like to do, and I don't ever really hear anybody say anything about this. But so I'm gonna put this jack, underneath this control arm, so that way I can take the tension off that ball joint. But what I like to do, and nobody else ever does this, but see, this swing arm is going to swing like this. Okay, it's going to swing in a straight line. And if you put your jack in from the side, then it's going to try to tip that jack over whenever it goes down. It's not gonna. It may not tip it over, but what I like to do is I like to come in from the other side with the jack, and so that way, whenever this control arm starts to swing, it just pushes the jack. It's on wheels, so it'll just roll nice and easy. And to me, that's a whole lot safer than taking a chance of that control arm going down and trying to tip that jack over. I just want to keep everybody safe, especially like right at this particular moment. I'm out here by myself, so you don't want anything bad to happen because you don't know how long it's going to be till somebody comes out here and get you. But anyway, that's a tip. That's just a tech tip. All right, so I've got the jack underneath it. You can see it's in line with the control arm, and I've put a couple of clicks in it. And so now if you just take a pry bar and you kind of stick it in here, kind of something like this. So I'm going over the top of the control arm and I'm just biting on something. See, now I've got plenty of easy. This spring tension is not near as bad. So now we can run the jack down, and if we go slow enough, oh man, I was supposed to remove that too. I'm going to go ahead and remove the sway bar end link too, so that way this will swing down. I forgot about that. Let's do that real quick. All right, so what we've got going on here is this. This is going to be a little bit of a tech tip too. I can't get this to spin off. It's spinning inside this shaft. I've got a pair of vice grips on the clamp, clamping this middle retainer, but still this shaft is spinning. And so the trick that we're going to do is we're going to see if that kind of helps. What we're going to do is we're going to bump the trigger on the impact, and it's going to shock that. And so whenever we're coming out, if we continue to bump it, that initial shock will back that nut off. But if you just sit there and hammer on it, all you're doing is spinning the shaft inside there. That is a common practice on a lot of these fasteners. Doesn't have to be a sway bar or anything. That could be anything. If you're having an issue with it spinning, you can bump the trigger, and it will shock that to come off. So let's try it. You see, see what we got here. We got that much thread. There you go. And also what I did was I bumped the trigger and ran it out, and then whenever it felt like it was really binding, then I run it back down, and then I done it again. Bump the trigger and back it back up until it started to really get in a bind, and then run it back down, and you continue to do that, and then that will eventually cause that nut to go ahead and grab a hold and come on. So this is what I was talking about, where this is spinning the whole thing, but if I keep bumping the impact, it'll cause this to come off. So now I'm going back down with it. I'm going to spin it backwards. See it, now it's coming. There we go. So now it's the shock. It's the shock of that impact banging against that. It will cause that thing to bite, and eventually, sometimes you'll get it, it'll just take off. Anyway, little tip. All right, so much as I didn't want to have to do it, I ended up having to break this brake line loose because this wouldn't swing far enough out of the way. So now I don't have a pair of hose clamps, so I made a pair of hose clamps. And all I did was just take a pair of vice grip. I have a needle nose pair of vice grips. I slit some hose so that way I can go over it. And now I'm going to crimp this so that way it stops leaking. And there's your tech tip for the day. Alright, I'm going to show you the pain in the butt version of sticking this back in. Now that we're using an adapter, something that you have to remember is originally it was these studs that went through there. So now you have to turn this. So see, it was originally these studs went through that upper shock bracket. So now you've got to spin this 180 degrees, and now you go back in there with it. So these will go into factory location. But anyway, all right, I'm gonna cram this back in there. It's a pain in the butt. Start by lining up your bottom shock. That orientates it. Now, I have to use a pry bar. I stick the pry bar. See if I can't see it on the camera. No, let me go up with the camera. All right, so I stick a pry bar in this upper control arm and pry it up out of the way. At the same time, I'm going to take my foot and put it on the lower control arm, pushing down, so that way the top of this shock will clear this upper shock mount. So this has got to go up to pry that up, pry this lower control arm down, so that way this will clear the shock bracket. All right, now it takes 12 hands, so hopefully you got that many hands. Let's see if we can't get this so that way you can kind of see. Kind of. All right, here we go. Where am I? Hand out of the way. Yeah, we got an issue right here. Yeah, let's see. I think I got it. It's a pain in the rear. You by yourself. Aha! All right. 32 hands is what it takes. Just so y'all know. Okay. So I'm going to start by going to the top and aligning. I'm going to align the 3 holes to come through the factory location. All right. Whole thing needs to go back. Huh. Forgot. All these new engines are aluminum. Don't do no good, does it? Here we go. We do it like that. So close. That's holding this up. Aha! You gotta hold your mouth right. Come on, people. Don't you know that? Just gotta hold your mouth right. Now, got the first one started. Second one started through. The third one is right there. It's lined up. I'm gonna go ahead and stick that nut on there so that way they don't back off. All right, here we go. And this takes the factory hardware. So actually, what I'm gonna do is we'll get this started, and then we're gonna go ahead and go underneath, jack up the lower control arm, put a little jack, jack underneath it. All right, let me go ahead and run the hardware up. All right, now we're going to torque these to the factory torque settings of, I don't know. So here we go. This is my 3/8 torque wrench. Click, click. Okay, there's the first one. Click, click. All right, there's the second one. Click, click. All right, there it is. Factory torque settings. Now, well, we put this thing back together in reverse order. We took it apart, which hopefully y'all paid attention because I didn't. Got this done. Spin it around now and do the back. Probably should have taken a tape measurement to figure out exactly how much we're getting. It's supposed to be 3 inches. And it's definitely up. And then the new tires are an inch taller. They're 35s. So that'll raise it up another half inch. Anyway, all right, I'm going to get this thing spinning around. I'll bring you back. Today's scripture is in Judges. It's going to be Judges 2 and 10. After the whole generation has been gathered to their fathers, another generation will grow up who knows not of the Lord nor what he has done for Israel. What we're dealing with in this particular moment is the fact that the generation that is dying off, that is aged out and they're dying, they they got to see everything. They got to see God bring them out of Egypt, cross the desert, part the Red Sea, got to go wander in the desert for 40 years, and God sustained them and fed them and give them water, and got to cross the Jordan and go into the promised land. This generation got to see all these things. And so then they have kids, and then they don't tell their children everything that God has done. So what's happened is that generation in that particular time was lost in the world doing the world things. And back then, the world worshiped Baal. The world did all these evil things in the eyes of the Lord. Well, guess what? 4,500 years later, we're still doing the same thing today. We have to tell our children the things that God has done for us and the things that that you have seen God do for others. There has been times where God has made you prosper whenever you didn't need it. There's times whenever you didn't have the money to sustain for the week, but somehow God worked it out. Your car broke down, you don't know how you're going to fix it. You don't have enough money for gas to get to work. The power bill may get turned off, but God provided. And we need to tell our children these things. Our children needs to know the things that God will do for them, because if not, they're going to get so lost in the world doing worldly things that their God is going to be whatever is in the world, worshiping their phone, whatever, sports, whatever it is. They need to know the truth of what God has done for you. All right, that's enough. Back to the shop. All right, so I got this thing turned around, the wheels off of it. got jack stands under it. So what we're going to do, we've got to, we're going to have to take and break these U-bolts loose on the bottom, and then the shock. We're going to have to, I'm going to take it loose. You don't necessarily have to, but what's going to happen is it's going to try to pull that differential. So I like to break it loose so that way there's no tension on it. I'll break the shock either the top or bottom, whatever one's easiest to get to. And then I don't know yet. I may have to break these loose um, to get the springs to separate from this saddle. So that's where we're at. Break these loose, run the nuts all the way down. Break these loose possibly. Take your shock loose. We'll do it on both sides, and then what we'll do is I've got a jack underneath the bumper or underneath the receiver hitch. See it? Want to jack up the truck and see if we can't take the weight off of it. We'll slide the block in and then set the differential back down or the truck back down onto the differential. I think all of our lines and everything will be plenty long because this actually originally had a factory 2-inch block and I removed it because I didn't like the back sitting so much higher than the front. So basically what I'm doing is putting the factory blocks back in it. But I removed those out. I pulled those out probably 2 years ago when I first got this truck. So anyway, all right, I'll get you set up and find out what size we need to break these U-bolts loose. All right, I'll be right back. All right, now I did not have to tighten or loosen the shock. I got lucky. you get the first one, it'll hold it. Oh, all right. I'll bring you back once I get the tires mounted up. All right, guys. So we got the new spacers in the front, got the new lift blocks in the rear, got the tires mounted. My son's already drove down a dusty road, so I think we're all set. I'll show you what we got here. Let's look and see if you can see. You can kind of sort of see. You can see the spacers. They're mounted. And in the rear, I don't know if you can see it or not, but we're gonna try. Can you see the light? In there somewhere is a spacer. Take my word for it. The spacer. All right, so there it is. The new tires made a big difference. It actually rides good. Pulled a boat to the lake this weekend with it. But anyway, until next time, we'll see you on the 2-lane.